Y'all, I'm on borrowed time now, getting ready for a trip to Ireland. But man, I've got some shows coming up next week. They're gonna be so good. I cannot wait. We're going to tell you a little bit more about those coming up. But first, we're going to get things started with Tracy Hitz, who is standing by the Hitz List. I can't even prepare for a weekend without seeing Tracy. Tracy has all the good stuff. How are you? And where are you?
I'm just in an office building in East Nashville, They're trendy over here.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you definitely are. That's awesome. That's awesome. You're everywhere. If you follow Tracy Hitz on social media, you and Stephanie Miller, who does our mornings on Main Street. The two of you are y'all both have married guys that are both into doing stuff all the time too. I mean, man, is that not cool?
Yeah, it took a while to find him, but I did.
Before we get started, would you talk about that? You have a book that's so cool. You took finding a husband like you would like finding a job in the business world.
I did. I really marketed myself and I put a plan together and I followed it. And yeah, a lot of people were saying, just wait, it'll come to you. And I was like, well, I've waited a really long time. So I'm just going to go ahead and go for it.
And and know what I want. If you know what you want, then you at least are closer to finding what you want.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
know first and put it down and say, this is what I want. Otherwise, you might get what you don't want.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. And you just have to put the effort. You have to put the effort into, like I said, going out and meeting people or going to different events where, again, going to a concert, since I love going to shows, like it would be great to find someone who would like to do that. And so going to places where you might find them and yeah, just actually talking and not being afraid. So, and not being afraid to fail, because I failed 175 times. I had 175 first dates over that time. And they didn't all go great, but I learned something every time. And eventually I got to my husband.
Okay, let's talk. Can you give people the name of this book?
Yes, it's called Miscalculated, but it's called and with the subtext of a dating plan so easy a teenager can do it, because I realized that my first boyfriend, I met him and I was like, I want to date this person. And he was like, meh. And so I just kind of was like, well, maybe if he hung out with me, like in marketing, if he hung out with me 4 or 5 times, I was just around, that he would see that I was cool. And it worked. And so then I realized, well, maybe that would work if I did that in real life as an adult too. So again, being like, meeting someone saying, oh, well, do you want to go to the Bulls game? I have front row tickets, I have courtside seats or whatever. And just kind of marketing and doing that incentive program seemed to work.
Oh, I love it. I go, well, I don't know if any girls have that kind of incentive program, but you always have some cooking. There's a way to mend stomach. Then people go,
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't do that. But, so Miscalculated is available on Amazon.
Yes, it is.
Miscalculated. So you guys, I'm telling you, this girl did it right and had the coolest wedding ever, even though we were in a lockdown. I mean, it's just amazing. We'll talk more about that, but let's get ready for the weekend.
Yes. So again, I usually talk mostly about music. I throw in some sports and food here and there, but I definitely wanted to mention that the Predators are playing tonight. I believe they still have a shot at the playoffs. So if there's ever a chance to go out and support the Predators, it's now. They're playing obviously at Bridgestone. And then also tonight, before you want to go to the game, if you're down there at Assembly Food Hall every Thursday night at 6, they have Boots on Broadway. And if you're coming into town, or you live here, but coming into town, take those lessons. And then all weekend you can hit the honky tonks and be ready to go.
I wondered about that. I'd heard that boots on the ground lessons, and I go, who is this and what are they doing? So anyway.
Yeah, they're at Assembly Food Hall every Thursday. And then my friend Darcy, she is the line dance instructor over at Wild Horse. So you'll see her a lot with Peyton Taylor and around town, but she is amazing as well. So if you're looking for line dancing, Wild Horse is the place to go. And hopefully Peyton's there this weekend, but I cannot confirm that. Where I will be is Luke Combs. He's playing at Nissan. He just added a Friday show, but he's playing Saturday as well. So I think there's still tickets left for that. Because if you can't get tickets to Lady A, who is playing tonight or Friday and Saturday at Ryman, crazy. That's going to be a great show, and to see them in such an amazing place, but also such a small venue. That's really cool. So Friday and Saturday for Lady at Ryman. Also on Saturday, so this week is Comedy Festival. I don't know if your friend is out and about. I didn't see him on the list when I was looking, but like there's comedy all over the place. And I mean, we usually have it, especially at Zany's, but it's going to be like up a notch this week. But Nate Bargatze, who I love.
He's a Nashville guy. Yes. Nate Bargatze, who has his own show on Netflix. It's amazing. Yeah.
He is so funny, and I saw him at the Ryman, but I don't know if it's sold out, but he is at the Bridgestone Arena on Saturday. So it's crazy that these comedians are able to sell out arenas. I love it, but I love him, and he's on Saturday at Bridgestone.
He's fairly clean. He's not, some of them I would say absolutely do not take your kids. Nate is not that guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is. I would take him around my parents. I know you're probably more worried about your children, but I'm more worried about being embarrassed in front of my parents.
Look, I don't think any of them could keep up with my mom's mouth. So I'm not worried about my mom.
That's true. I've met your mom.
Mama pats a card.
Yeah, she's cooler than my parents. I mean, I love my parents, but your mom has her finger on the pulse.
Yeah. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, also on Saturday, Deborah Allen is down at the Franklin Theater, who I'm sure you know everything about, but I didn't know she was discovered by Roy Orbison.
See?
Just a little
I hate that I'm missing that show. I really am.
Yeah, she's amazing. So I'm excited. And I love the Franklin Theater. On Sunday, the other place I'm going to try and get into is New Edition, and Keith Sweat and Guy are playing at Bridgestone. But I looked at tickets last night. It was kind of weird. The upper decks were like $250 and the lower bowl was still $150. So the upper decks were more expensive, which was very confusing to me as a ticket snob and connoisseur. But if those get down a little bit more, I'm sliding into the Bridgestone on Sunday for New Edition and Keith Sweat. And then on the opposite side of that, you have the Del McCoury Band Sunday at the Caverns, which I love the Caverns and that band.
To hear bluegrass in those caverns, I'm going to tell you, it's something special about acoustic music in there. It's just great. Well, any music in there is really good, but it's really neat. And when you go up there, stop by the Amish Hippie. My friend Marla Sitton runs that. The Amish, great fun store if you need some kitschy gifts. And if you need a place to stay, the lodge at the Smokehouse is open.
Oh, yes, that's perfect. You do mention her every time we talk about the Caverns, and I love that. I need to stop by, but that'll be a great show. And then I sometimes like to throw in a band that I've never heard of because they've got my attention with their name. And so you've got the Crumb Snatchers playing with the Similar Kind and the Sewing Club. And I was like, I kind of want to see these people. They're playing on Sunday at 8:00 at The End, which is over on Elston Place. Yeah. So no idea if they're any good, but I mean, with these names, I'm in. So if I don't go to New Edition, I'll be going to the Crumb Snatchers with the Sewing Club. And then finally on Monday, you've got CMT's Next Women of Country Showcase. That's at City Winery. Our friend Kimberly Kelly is one of the Next Women of Country. Oh, wow. Alana Springsteen, some great ladies. But like I said, my favorite is Kimberly Kelly. But definitely check those ladies out because they are awesome.
Kimberly Kelly is incredible. Download anything you find of hers. Get it, listen, because she's the stuff. Tracy, have a great weekend. It's always so great to see you. The hitzlist.com. We talk about stuff so fast here because we don't have a lot of time, but she puts it all down for us. And thank you for that hard work. It's one thing that you're going to be going to all this stuff anyway, but to write it all down and to prepare it for us, that's a whole nother thing. And it steps it up a notch, and we appreciate you. If you're an artist and you're just coming to town from anywhere you're watching this, go to Hitz and Branding, HITZ, hitzandbranding.com. That's Tracy's company, and she helps you get your brand set up. If you were a young artist and you're looking for help when you come to town, she's the person you need to hire ASAP. Yesterday. Get her on the docket because she knows what she's doing. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you, Devin.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Well, Mr. Murfreesboro is always doing things in Murfreesboro. John is on the pulse. Murfreesboro.com is where you get all of his information. Whether it's an opening, whether it's something as simple as construction, and when's it going to be done, and what are they doing?
Hey everybody, got a construction update for you on what is coming in at the new Aldi's down South Church Street right next to Walmart. Everybody's been writing in asking what's going on there because as you can see, if you drive by, they have started leveling the land. They're about to start laying the concrete for a foundation of a building that is going to house 5 different businesses, which are going to be an Ascend Federal Credit Union, a nail salon, a dental office. There's going to be an urgent care / walk-in clinic, and a Baskin Robbins. Yay to that one. So love me some ice cream. As far as the future buildings that are going to go on there, they're the original plans. They were in discussions for a Dollar Tree / Dollar General. That one is still in negotiations, I guess, or it's under discussion. So when I have more information about that one, I'll let you know about it. And in the original plans, we also saw that there was a Wendy's that was going to go there. Now, that one's kind of up in the air. We don't know just yet. That one may have gone bye-bye. It may still be in the works. We don't know. And so when I have an answer on that one, I'll post about it for you. So fingers crossed, Wendy's coming in down there. But as of right now, it's up in the air. We don't know. So there's your update. What's coming in at the Aldi's on South Church Street. If you got any questions on anything, put it in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them all. And there you go. Till the next one. Y'all have a great day.
Murfreesboro.com. You need to check that out. John does a great job. You can follow him on Facebook and on YouTube and everything. He is the stuff when it comes to Murfreesboro. Kind of like our Jason Goolsby is in Wilson County. He's on the spot. You know, it's like when dirt's on the move, he's there. He keeps us posted. He's got some updates, and we're going to have those on our show as well. Stephanie Miller was at the Nashville Sounds this week. We're going to have a report from her. But first, let's talk about the Nashville Zoo and see one of the animals that's really fun to watch.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hitz City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Okay, there are a couple of people in my life, a couple of names that I feel like they're my siblings, they're my family, even if we've been separated by time and space. One, I don't remember my life without a Golden in it. You know, Chris and Rusty and Craig and William Lee Golden and the whole family, they feel like my family. But you know who else feels like my family? Even longer than that, Bill Cinque. And he joins us right now. My family on with me. How are you, Bill?
I am well. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Well, thank you for that glorious introduction. To say the very least, I feel the same about you. We go back a couple of weeks, I guess.
I know. I think it was 19 years old when I met you in New York City. Yeah. My sister introduced us and friends ever since. And you have got an incredible book, but let's talk a little bit. Some of the names that you've played for, it's unbelievable. And we'll start with Neil Diamond because that's kind of, you start there and kind of go backwards.
Yeah. Honestly, in my thought process, it begins and ends with Neil Diamond because it was not only the highlight of my career, and I've been very fortunate, as you know. I mean, I played with some folks and I've done some recording and I've done television shows and I've done lots of stuff that would, otherwise would sound like I'm name dropping. But Neil Diamond is the greatest of the greats, as far as I'm concerned, as a songwriter, as a singer, as a gentleman. I say this every time I talk about him. He never liked to be referred to as the boss, but he was the greatest boss ever. He's the greatest guy to work for, the greatest guy to know. And it was interesting that I got the greatest gig of my life when I was, I think, 56 years old. I was looking at an exit strategy, and I get this phone call from some guy who says, "Hey, would you like to audition for Neil Diamond?" So that was when I was, as I said, about 56. And so anybody listening to this, when people say, "Don't ever give up on your dreams," that might sound like a Hallmark card. It might sound like something that doesn't mean much. Trust me, dreams come true.
Oh, and before we, there's one in particular, one scene that I want you to replay for us, but this is the book that you put together, The Amazing Adventures of a Marginally Successful Musician, very tongue-in-cheek, very fun. You've always been the coolest guy in the room, and this book is filled with humor and some really fun stories, but it's also, other than being memoir, it also has some how-tos. If you want to be a working musician, I always say, if you want to do what you love and make a living doing it, this is the book to have.
I appreciate that. That was one of the intentions of me writing it to begin with, because all I ever saw was musicians being portrayed as two different things. They were either rock stars who made $1 million a minute that no one could relate to, or they were the joke. Right? Every sitcom was here's the teenage girl and her boyfriend is a bass player in some band, and he lives in a van and he's borrowing money and he's sleeping on their couch. And I said, no, there's a lot in between, and there are ways to do it and make sense of it. And that was kind of the impetus of the book.
Well, you've been doing this for a long time. When I met you, now, and Faith, my sister, for everybody that doesn't know it, we were all in New York at the same time. And Faith said something. He goes, well, ask about Billy Idol. Were you ever connected in the Billy Idol camp when you were in New York?
I was, not directly with the band. There was, unfortunately, we lost him about, I guess, 6 or 7 years ago. There was a huge manager called Bill O'Coin. Aucoin. He was actually Canadian. If you ever look him up, absolutely outlandish character. He was the guy who actually started Kiss. He was the one who managed Kiss in the very early days. He went on to manage other people, one of which was Billy Idol. Now, when we were an aspiring rock band in the 80s in New York, he was managing Billy Idol. And so suddenly we would be with Bill O'Coin, and I'd find myself in the studio, and there's Billy Idol. And then we'd go out to a show and we'd be backstage with Billy Idol. And then we'd be having kind of a dinner, not a formal dinner kind of thing, but, and Billy Idol sits down for 10 minutes to talk to Bill O'Coin before he leaves. So yeah. And I'm saying that now, and it's very, I don't even know what I would call it, humbling. To think that here I was, a 25-year-old guitar player in New York, and I'm telling these stories now. Billy Idol was the biggest, one of the biggest acts on the planet.
It was huge.
Yeah, so we kind of shared management. Now, I don't think Billy Idol would remember me. We met several times. I don't know that you remember me, but it was an interesting thing, because at that same time, I was playing little clubs in New York. I was playing little acoustic guitar gigs on Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village. And it would be interesting to be playing for $50 a night and saying, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late. We were in the studio with Billy Idol. And I had to come over here, and people would look at me, are you kidding? Or are you serious? Or then why are you here? And again, that fed into the idea of the book, because I say with great pride, I'm the only guy that that has played the Hollywood Bowl and the Holiday Inn in the same month. So,
and sometimes in the same night. That's just the crazy.
My goodness, yeah.
You've done that. Okay, people like, and I want to get to the whole British invasion thing. I mean, how you've been a part, some of the British bands that you've been a part of.
Yeah, well, I am speaking now to maybe, I have to kind of break it out audience-wise, because me being 64, rapidly approaching 65 years old, and I say that with great pride because I'm losing my hearing and I'm losing my eyesight, but I still have my ponytail. This is me. This is mine. So, at 64 years old, those that are my age and older really remember a lot of the British invasion bands. What I am always shocked and pleasantly surprised is that some of the really younger, and I mean younger, like 15-year-olds, are really familiar with this music. But Peter and Gordon was a huge band in the 60s. They came over with the Beatles. Peter Asher went on to produce James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt, and I'm still Peter Asher's bass player for about 16 or 17 years now. Chad and Jeremy was another duo that always got mixed up with Peter and Gordon. I had the pleasure of working with both Chad and Jeremy and Peter and Gordon, and just last week was on a rock and roll cruise with Jeremy and Peter, who are both survivors as Chad and Gordon passed away. I worked with the Searchers, Badfinger, a version of the Hollies, Herman's Hermits, Billy J. Kramer. Then on the kind of the American side, there were a couple of other bands. And the reason I mentioned people like Paul Revere and the Raiders, he was an American band, but everybody thought they were British bands. And the same thing happened with the Buckinghams, who had some great music. Kind of a Drag was their big song. And they came out in these outfits and everybody thought they were part of the British invasion.
Mark Lindsay. I was so crushing on Mark Lindsay, the prettiest man in the whole wide world. He's so pretty.
He still is. Actually, I
no, he and Rick Springfield made a deal with somebody because
clearly I would love to meet their manager. I've had the real pleasure to play with that. Jerry and the Pacemakers was my kind of, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm standing on stage with the guy who played on Ed Sullivan. And then I've had that feeling with Peter Asher, because Peter and Gordon played. So I've really had the time of my life. I don't mind giving a little shout out here. This is interesting, and I swear I did not plan this, but you can see it's still in the plastic. I just caught the corner of my eye. A great band from the 60s had a song called Time Won't Let Me. And it was Time Won't Let Me. Oh no, Time Won't Let Me, right? The Outsiders. I swear I did not plan this.
Oh my gosh.
That's the t-shirt that I just took out of the plastic. Last year, my good friends in the Outsiders, Ricky and Rick and Jimmy, their bass player got sick at the last minute. And they needed a last minute, and I mean last minute bass player who sang. So they called me, and I was absolutely honored and flattered. And anybody who knows the song, which is a lot of you, if you ever get a chance to see the Outsiders, they rock. They're great. I know I'm talking a lot and I'm talking fast, but a similar situation happened just last week when we did the rock and roll cruise called the Flower Power Cruise. And if you remember songs like Do Wah Diddy and Quinn the Eskimo, the name of the band was the Manfred Mann Band.
Yeah.
Manfred Mann, the Earth Band, right? So they've gone on, they've changed a little bit, and they're called the Manfreds now. Some personnel changes. While I was on the ship at 1:00 in the afternoon, management comes running over to me and says, the bass player for the Manfreds got sick. Can you fill in? And I was thinking, well, okay, if I have 2 days, I'll fill in on Monday whenever they're playing. No, it's 1:00. Sound check is at 4. So I had to learn 17 songs in about 2.5 hours. I did stop for pizza because, let's face it, there's only so much you can do in the world without pizza. And I filled in with the great Paul Jones, who was the original singer. And it was the same kind of situation where I was so flattered to be standing there with these guys that I had been listening to for my whole life. So they were also part of the British invasion.
Your book retails stories like this, but it gives it an application for people to use in their own careers. But even if it's not for a career in music, I will tell you that for me, the same things that apply to music can be applied to any business thing. That's why you're a great speaker for groups and you share your stories like this, but every single thing applies to real life, no matter what you're doing. There's one thing that you said, show up on early and with a clean shirt.
In fact, That was a speaking engagement I did with you, Miss Devin O'Day, in the Nashville area. And it was a younger musician. Matter of fact, I think a couple asked similar questions. And I said, yeah, show up early and wear a clean shirt. And everybody giggled. And I had to stand up and kind of do this and went, I know you're laughing, but please take my advice, because showing up late and looking like you just rolled out of bed never helped anyone. And me being a sideman, me being a band leader, all those kind of things, if I'm auditioning saxophone players and you walk in 20 minutes late with some lame excuse and you have coffee stains on your shirt, I'm already saying I'm not interested. If you couldn't put in the time to show up and learn your stuff and look presentable, I'm not interested.
I mean, it's a great rule of thumb and rule of life. You just put this book out on audio, and
Yes, I
it's
did.
your voice, and you did it. And so you have it available. You can find it at biddlecinque.com, and it's Cinque. And if you ask Siri to find it, she'll call it Cinque.
Yes. Yeah, they do the Italian pronunciation because it means 5 in Italian, but we Americanized it, so I'm gonna have to live with that, I think, for a while.
Oh, but I love it. Okay, the last story is my very favorite one. I mean, you're a kid from Yonkers who comes from, like me, blue collar roots, and you've made it. And for a kid in New York to make it to Madison Square Garden is pretty much the pinnacle of everything.
Without a doubt.
And you got in touch with me right after this happened, and it was a real moment. You're walking out on stage, Madison Square Garden, first time ever, with Neil Diamond to a sold out crowd. What was that feeling?
It was a tremendous feeling, which would go without saying, but the things leading up to it was this. I got to New York, and we had been to New York a few times because we had done, the year before, had done the Today Show and the Tonight Show. And on one occasion, I was walking out the door to just go out and have lunch. I had a couple of hours off. I stopped and went back into my hotel room and got down on my knees and said a prayer. Because there's something way outside of me that's propelling and directing all this. And I'm happy to say that I just did that. And I just went, this is my way of saying to God and the universe, thank you for this. But when we got to Madison Square Garden, my whole family was there. And walking out on stage, at the same time, I was in awe. I was overwhelmed. And somewhere in there, I had a feeling of, wow, I'm right where I belong. And that might sound contradictory and counterintuitive, but I could be grateful. I could show grace. I could be enthusiastic. I could be nervous. I could be all of that. And I just stood there, and I remember looking up saying, oh yeah, I was meant to do this at least once in my life. And the fact of the matter is I got to do twice in 1 week. And that was with Neil. But I just remember looking out, just saying, where can I go from here? You know? And I will say very quickly that Neil, being the gentleman and just the greatest guy in the world, introduces me and says, I'd like to introduce you to our bass player. He used to live right up the street, Bill Cinque. And of course, the place goes nuts because they now know I'm a native New Yorker. So everything about that was just as great as it could be, and it will live forever. Because when we were pulling up in the van, and I looked up and saw on the marquee of Madison Square Garden, performing tonight, Neil Diamond, and we drive around the corner past a little rehearsal studio that I used to go to every single week. I used to literally walk past Madison Square Garden and go in this dingy little rehearsal studio. I went, well, here is my life, right? On one side is the biggest theater in the world. On the other side is where I was sweating in this place with no air conditioning, that I had to walk up 6 flights of stairs because the elevator wasn't working most of the time. And I guess that time that I put in the rehearsal studio down the street got me to the greatest stage in the world with the greatest
Amen.
entertainer.
Well, we could talk all day, but we don't have all day, so you can go and get this and hear Bill tell his stories by going to billcinque.com and getting a copy on audio of this book, or of course all the portals, or get a copy of the print book. It's available now as well. Bill, I love you like lunch and jewelry. You have a great rest of your day. Thank you for your time here.
Thank you so much. I love you too, Devin, and thank you to your audience.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, it inspires me all the time. A quick check-in with everybody who's watching. Perry, Steve, and Elizabeth, and Vera. Vera's listening this morning. Y'all, I'm so glad that you're here. And don't forget to go to 50 Forward. We don't have time. Well, we had our giggles with Bill. And I will say that here's our daily giggle brought to you by 50 Forward. If you don't understand why this is wrong, you're the reason we have to put directions on shampoo bottles. It is a guy driving slow in the left-hand lane. And you just don't do that. That's our daily giggle. 50 Forward wants you to go to the National Institute of Health's research study and put your information in and be part of the biggest research study in the world when it comes to health. And that is joinallofus.org/50 Forward, all spelled out. Be safe, everybody. Be kind. And remember, you are loved. I mean, you really are.
We are home. We are family. We are things to do and place to see. Mom and pops, local grown, small business Saturdays. We are Main Street, Main Street, Main Street. We are your Main